Reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News report. So you know shit is real in the field out here, especially since these protests kicked off when they murdered George Floyd, unlawfully, rather. You know, unarmed black man, 46 years old, killed by Minneapolis police officers, and they weren't immediately charged, but officially today, Attorney General Keith Ellison, the first African American Attorney General of Minnesota, actually announced that they are bringing charges against all 4 police officers for the murder of George Floyd. This is after weeks of crazy protests that have been happening across the country and across the world, rather. Now the officer Derek Chauvin, who actually had the dude's knee on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, while George Floyd was actually yelling at, actually saying that he can't breathe. After he was initially charged from a third degree murder and second degree manslaughter, now has a charge of second degree murder. And while the other officers have aiding and abetting of murder. So 2 of those officers had actually been on the George Floyd's legs, pinning him down, while Derek Chauvin was on his neck, man. Crazy shit. So now we actually get to see justice. But look at all the fuck shit that had to happen across the country and the world just for justice to be served. It shouldn't be like that. But nevertheless, it seems like there's actually a chance of justice actually being served for this shit. But now y'all know what the fuck we talking about. So y'all fake guys, I don't know what white supremacist motherfuckers out there, man. So food for thought, man. Reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News report, man. You know, we out here soaking up this vitamin dizzle off the motherfucking sun and shit, but this global warming shit seeming more real every day, you feel me? Nevertheless, we got protests that's still been rocking all throughout the country and throughout the world. Last night in DC, you had protesters still out there outside of the White House, and they were actually met by a bunch of National Guard members, as well as another little paramilitary force that was out there. A bunch of dudes in heavily armed riot gear, but no tags or anything identifying themselves. You know what I'm saying? So that was very interesting. All of this in response to all of these protests in response to the murder of George Floyd, who was killed in Minneapolis by police department members. Derek Chauvin, who had his knee on his neck for almost 9 minutes, while he even said he can't breathe. And then 2 other men holding his legs back. The other 3 officers being named Thomas Lane, Alexander Quang, and Tao Thao, or Tu Thao, Touthao, however y'all want to pronounce that shit. But can't make these names up, people. You know what I mean? Greenwald and Graduation. Reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News report. So, Defense Secretary Mark Esper actually is going against what Donald Trump was talking about, and actually said that he doesn't think that active duty military members should be deployed in these streets to quell these protests. Now, that's big because that's what Donald Trump fucking did, and that has to go through the Pentagon. So if the Pentagon chief is saying that, that's a big deal. I told y'all yesterday how there was already 700 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne Division that were actually deployed to Washington, D.C. to quell the protests. Well, Esper tried to take 200 of those soldiers out, but actually reversed that decision on Wednesday, when after what was reportedly an angry meeting at the White House. So they playing them politics and war games up there in D.C. Meanwhile, real people getting infected. So everybody stay cool. Reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Files News report. So as far as news in these protests that's been going on across the country, it actually transferred to New York. Obviously, some crackdowns or some protests has definitely been going on, have definitely gotten violent. There were a lot of protesters surrounding the Gracie Mansion. So they had blocks of the Upper East Side actually shut off, where surrounding the residence of Mayor Bill de Blasio in the mansion, and There were like 200 current and former mayor staffers that were actually signed this open letter, basically demanding that $1 billion be taken from the police department and out of the budget and reallocated towards like social services like housing support, rental relief in these COVID-19 days, food assistance, healthcare. At the same time, you have the Legal Aid Society. They're filing a lawsuit saying that hundreds of protesters are being held in these jails, actually, for longer than 24 hours in a pandemic. You know what I mean? And rest in peace to Jamel Floyd, a 35-year-old black man who was actually died in a Metropolitan Detention Center after being pepper sprayed. Green War on graduation, huh? Reporter of the New World, though, the Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. You see me in full uniform today, baby. You know what I mean? It's really going down today, baby. Check this out, though. You have a lot of people that are protesting about the murder of George Floyd. You know, you're still seeing the ripple effects of that, even though so far as of today, all four officers have actually been charged for the murder of George Floyd. We'll keep you updated on that. But nevertheless, you have people joining the protest in Los Angeles, where you had a massive crowd actually come down on the LA Civic Center, talking about how the district attorney of LA would fail to prosecute officers that have been accused of misconduct. So at the same time, the city council for LA introduced legislation that actually will remove $150 million from the LAPD budget and basically directed towards health and education programs for communities of color. So, you know, there's been some people that have had their voices heard. We'll see if the legislation gets passed, though. Green War on graduation. The New World, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. So, y'all know that the murder of George Floyd last week actually shook the nation and it shook the planet, caused a lot of protests going on, and now you got in the U.S. Some athletes actually getting into the conversation, where you had a former NBA legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar actually penning something in the LA Times regarding the matter on how racism in America is like dust in the air, and you know, if we keep shining our light like the sun, you know, we'll be able to see the dust and clean it out here, but it's still always going to be there. It was basically his message. That also you had people coming down on NFL quarterback Saint star Drew Brees, who basically said he would never agree with somebody taking a knee or somebody disrespecting the flag like that. So the U.S. flag. So people coming down on him about that, as well as Coco Gauff actually spoke at a BLM event in Delray Beach, Florida. Shout out to her. This is the 16-year-old shorty that actually took out both Williams sisters and took out Sabrina for the chip last year. So you know, had a powerful speech at the beach. So shout out to her. Green War on graduation. Reporter of the New World, though, the Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. So with all of the protests that have come from the murder of George Floyd by Minneapolis police, for which so far all four officers have actually been charged, at least by the Attorney General of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. Nevertheless, and these protests have gone against police brutality, and it's also caused some angst towards statues and monuments that actually represent this nation's racist history. So you have, like in Philly, for example, they tried to topple the statue of Frank Rizzo, former racist mayor and all of that. Tried to take it down, and then actually had tried to light it on fire. Mayor Jim Kennedy had it removed, so that, you know, it represents like pain and you know, racism for a lot of people for a long time. Over in Virginia, Governor Ralph Northam actually had the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee actually removed from Capitol grounds in Richmond, Virginia. Due to the fact that, you know, protesters tried to vandalize it. You had in Birmingham, Alabama, the statue of Charles Lynn, former Confederate officer, removed, as well as a statue of a monument, rather, is called the Confederate Sailors and Soldiers Monument, was actually vandalized. So they just had both of them removed. Randall Woodfield, the governor, the mayor over there. And then over in Nashville, Tennessee, they had Edward Carmack statue removed. This This was somebody who was like a racist politician and a publisher who actually incited violence against Ida B. Wells. This was a known African-American legendary writer who was actually reporting on the lynchings that were going on during that time. So off with them shits, man. I think we really gonna come back to them times, or at least y'all white folks. We black people know what's up, but y'all white folks gonna come back to the time like, dang, how did we let it go on this long? And it'd be your grandmothers and your mothers that actually think that, oh well, racism didn't exist during them times anyway, so what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like hindsight's 2020, but even for racism sometimes it's not. Like, that's crazy. Greenwood and graduation though.
The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. So Senator for Kentucky, Ron Paul, you know, the younger brother of Ron Paul, who run for president in the past on the Republican side, somebody who I actually understood, you know, was talking my language, even though, you know, he had some very questionable and racist statements on his jacket in the past. But nevertheless, Ron Paul had some good moments in his political career from what I could see, but he be fucking up sometimes. So right now, he's actually blocking the quick passage of the anti-lynching bill that has actually hit the Senate floor, where with a unanimous decision it could go through. He's blocking it, saying that feels like the verbiage of the bill, it could conflate lesser crimes with lynching, so making it a federal hate crime, which is what the bill would do. Now, you know, he just wasn't trying to hold off on that. Keep in mind that in February the House had passed the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill 410 to 4, so that lets you know what type of congressional support is behind this. Yeah, we'll have a New World graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. So Kentucky Senator Ron Paul, this is the younger brother of Ron Paul, former Republican who actually ran for president. He's a senator as well. Somebody who actually, even despite having like some racist statements on his jacket in the past, actually was talking my language as far as like what I think ideal policy should be for the United States. Nevertheless, Ron Paul has had his moments too, but sometimes it seems like he's on some bullshit. Now, blocking this current anti-lynching bill that hit the Senate floor, blocking the fast passing of it. With a unanimous decision, it could be a federal hate crime to do lynching, any lynchings in the country. This was sponsored by the Senate's 3 black senators, and he actually opposed it, saying that he felt like the language would conflate lesser crimes with lynching. So that's his stance on that. Keep in mind, the House had actually passed the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill back in February. So and here we are with it today. We'll see how this turns out. Greenwood graduation. Streets reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. So the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police officer Devin Chauvin and 3 officers that were with him, all having been charged officially today by the Minnesota Attorney General, Chief Ellison. What up, bro? You know what I'm saying? But with George Floyd's situation, you know, coming around the world, even the Pope is speaking on it. The Pope actually had a message for the American people, basically saying like how you can't turn a blind eye to, you know, that racism and exclusion, and at the same time claim that we're defenders of like, you know, every human life and all that. But you know, my message for the Pope is like, you can't turn a blind eye towards child molestation and pedophilia that's running rampant in the Catholic Church. Like, all y'all motherfuckers need to be dismantled. You know what I'm saying? Just keeping it at that way. You know? Now, at the same time though, the Archbishop of Washington D.C. This is a black man. He actually has condemned Trump, and where he had this photo op he took in front of St. John's Episcopal Church. And after getting like police to like beat up on protesters until wait for him to do that fuck shit, he called it like, you know, reprehensible. And, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, dude had like a lot of character. But the Catholic Church though, you know what I'm saying? Y'all got a lot of smut on y'all hands. Bitch that. Y'all white, that's like y'all white supremacists. Y'all be claiming that y'all really for the nation. Like, why haven't y'all dealt with that? Just a question. Greenwood graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News Report. Make sure you check out blackfoxnews.com/shop. You can find the link in the Black Fox News Instagram bio, man. It'll take you to some fly gear that you can have actually to support the movement, all different color, shapes, and sizes. You know, to stop the KKK line, the Still Our Grind line. You know what I mean? Different types of shit too. Towels, pants, you know what I mean? Definitely support the movement as we continue to support y'all and give y'all this real deal unfiltered. Now, 1.9 million Americans
Americans actually filed for unemployment benefits last week. That brings the total to 42.6 million who have actually filed for unemployment since the start of this pandemic. That is obviously a huge stress on the economy, but you know, there was this $2 trillion stimulus package that should have been able to, should have had allocations for that, right? Wow. Well, Bloomberg Newz is actually reporting that they did a study that shows $67 billion that was supposed to be allocated towards in unemployment benefits towards Americans, owed to Americans, has actually not been paid out. So who said they playing games? You know, them corporations got this. Green War and graduation though.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Some turn up shit. Make sure you check it out, blackfoxnews.com. You can find a link in the Instagram bio or in the video description. Nevertheless, and you have Rona that we still have to worry about. 107,000 deaths in total for the United States. 1.85 million confirmed cases. And both of those numbers are believed to be a lot higher. Even right now, the majority of states in the country are said to have their 7-day averages of new confirmed coronavirus cases to be either steady or rising. So right now you have, at the same time, you have the Admiral Brett Giroir, Giroir, however you pronounce that. This is the top person in the Trump administration for administering the COVID-19 test. He's actually said he's going to be demobilized from his position. Why they always get shifty whenever shit is supposed to be going down? Business is supposed to be handled, huh? Like Trump, this is Trump's cabinet, and it's been like that since he's been in here. A revolving door, like a motherfucking McDonald's. It's crazy, man. Green War and graduation. Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So, there was actually a coalition of public health officials that are actually put in calling for the end of the widespread use of tear gas that's going on by police departments in addressing these protests that have been rocking the country in response to the murder of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Now, these it's actually an online petition signed by 1,300 disease specialists that basically say that COVID-19, it increases the risk of COVID-19, tear gas that is, the risk of a person actually catching SARS-CoV-2, coronavirus disease 2019, by basically making the respiratory tract more susceptible to infection. It exacerbates any inflammation. It also even induces coughing. So, and also that the police tactics of basically putting people in jails and confining them in these little vans or whatever, that shit is all contribute, increases the risk as well. And at the same time though, the coalition, they still encourage people to protest and go against white supremacy. So, you know what I mean? But those are times we in, man. Stop them tear gas. They might be making the situation worse and might be doing so on purpose, y'all. We gotta be woke for that. Green War and graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So now there's this drug called hydroxychloroquine that actually treats malaria. Y'all remember Trump just recently trying to say that basically it could be used to cure COVID-19, right? Y'all remember that shit? I know, even though it was a few weeks ago, it seems like ages ago because of all this fuck shit we've been going on, but that really just happened. It turns out that after the largest and most rigorous study has actually been done on testing whether this anti-malarial drug can be used to treat COVID-19, it has been found and published in the New England Journal of Medicine that it is not true. It does not cure COVID-19. It is no different than placebo. Has no different of an effect than a placebo. So your president lied to you again, made an ill-informed decision, whether he did it consciously or unconsciously. Both are dangerous. Both are a fucking problem. Both, either one doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he shouldn't be out there telling people that. People that actually died from it, taking this shit. You know what I mean? This is where the fuck we at, man. Green War and graduation. Report of the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report. So over in Hong Kong, which is supposed to be a semi-autonomous region, even though it people associated with China, it's in China, technically whatever. Hong Kong has actually been found to have passed legislation
that actually makes it a crime, a federal crime, to actually disrespect the Chinese national anthem. Now, this is coming after there's already been legislation passed recently that has actually allowed for Chinese government, Chinese officials to, like, you know, crack down on disrespect towards Chinese police and officers and all of that. So, you know, we're only still a year removed from all of those the protesting that took place last year about that extradition bill, where they were saying if you commit a crime in Hong Kong, you could be put in a Chinese prison or have to deal with their system. So this seems like an extension of that going on in the grand scheme of things. It actually brought a lot of anger and even a scuffle on the Hong Kong Legislative Council floor. And this is also on the 31st anniversary of the Beijing's Tiananmen Square situation, where like Chinese officials actually cracked down on these student protesters. So like a big slap in the face to like no disregard for like history and people's paranoia. So, but that's what's happening though. Green Wall and graduation, man. Y'all stay woke and wherever the fuck you at.